Hey guys, my name is Josh, and this is the Skype for Business recap. It has been way too long. Let's not dwell too long on how long it's been or why I can't seem to keep a weekly schedule down. Things have just been getting busier and busier, and I am trying to find a way to keep up, both here in the community and with work. So here we are. We're getting it done. We're getting the show out there. Looking at the whiteboard in the back, you can see we've got some great topics lined up that have taken place over the last couple weeks-ish, week or so, somewhere in there. Week and a half sounds better than 2 weeks. It's late. Whatever the case is, I'm late. But we got some great topics, and we got even more than what's on the board back there. So let's not waste too much time talking about why on earth are you always late. I don't have a great answer. I just don't. So we're gonna skip that part. We're gonna go over to the Infinity screen and pull up our browser and dive straight into content here. For those of you not familiar, we're going to talk about, well, first we're going to talk about a couple event things that are happening within the community, not just online stuff, but like in-person community events. And the first is the Skype for Business user group. For those of you not familiar with the group, it is a nonprofit organization that has locations scattered across the United States. We'll go take a look at the Find a Meetups page just so you can see on a map kind of where all we are located. There's about 20 different locations here, um, all over the mainland US. And we have a number of meetings coming up. The Skype for Business user group does quarterly meetings. And the Q3 meetings are now in full swing. Some have already happened, and a few more, or several more, are scheduled for this month and into September. So if you live in any one of these areas and are looking for a good local community where you can get together with other Skype for Business professionals, learn more about the technology, meet people that are involved with it, get a free meal, possibly win some cool vendor gear and swag. This is something you want to sign up for and show up to. It's a good time. We have great content and there's a lot going on there. So going back to the main page, if you are looking for an event like this, we've got a couple coming up here that you can see August 10th, 17th, 22nd, various places across, well, two of them in California, one in North Carolina. We got Pennsylvania coming up. Austin, that's me. If you're going to be in the Austin or want to come take part in the Austin group, August 23rd, get it on your calendars, register quickly so that I know how much barbecue to buy. And then we've even got stuff stretching throughout September and into October there for New York. So very good resource. We hope to see a lot of you guys there throughout the country. Always a good time. Next up, Microsoft Ignite. We are a week into August already, and Ignite is in September, September 25th through the 29th in Orlando. So if you haven't yet bought tickets, get on that because, like you can see, limited passes remaining. I don't know which of those passes are, so get tickets now rather than waiting. Hotels might already be a dicey situation for you, so it definitely get registered sooner rather than later if you plan on going and get that stuff squared away. Going to be a big event. This is going to be pretty huge. They've got an amazing after party scheduled where they've reserved Orlando Universal Studios in Orlando. They are putting out the app really soon here for getting your agenda put together. So it is time to start looking at the session catalog up here, finding all the right sessions, planning them out, giving yourself a time to breathe between, of course, and making sure you got a good agenda planned. I will be there. I'm going to be at a lot of these Skype for Business and team sessions. I really hope I'll bump into some of you guys there, and yeah, we'll go from there. So Ignite around the corner. Get planning. Get things on your calendar. Start figuring out what it's going to look like for you and how you're going to keep up with the information as it hits social media. Okay, that's it for the events. Let's move on to actual content and things that were news over the last week and a half to 2 weeks here. Some new admin controls for Microsoft Teams were released, and these controls center around third-party apps that you can use in your connectors within your teams. So what do? They control which of those third-party apps are available on a few different levels. As you can see, we've got like 3 different choices here, and we'll see how they work in a second. 1, you can allow or block all third-party apps. 2, you can individually choose which apps to allow or block. And number three, you can choose what happens as those new apps get submitted into the catalog for Microsoft Teams. If you think about it, the amount of apps that are available continue to grow. More and more get added. And if you allow apps on a partial basis, then you're going to want to know as new apps get added to make sure that the new apps fall into the partially allow rather than partial block. So there are a few settings to control that. As we look at the tenant-wide settings in the screenshot here, we've got a section here where you can turn external apps on or off for Teams. And if it's on, then you can check a box next to each one to show which ones are going to be available. And then you can enable new external apps by default or turn that off. Okay, pretty cool addition of controls. This is important. They just go over these settings in a little more in depth right here. You can show what the user experience is going to look like, how they're going to see this. Stuff you're probably pretty familiar with at this point if you're big into Teams. But if you're, trying to sell the story about what, your team's deployment is going to look like, how you're going to control the end user experience, how you're going to control data when it comes to third-party apps, things like that, this is a good chapter in that story. So read up on this. Great tech community post. And I'll put the link, of course, with the rest of this content in the YouTube video description so that you guys can get well read up on it. Good news for Teams. Another Teams bit of news here, fellow Office Servers and Services MVP, Matt Landis. He's been doing these user tip series, and I love them. They are quick, concise, but they're very informative. They get you right to the point of what's new, how to use it, and what it means to you in a very clear, concise manner. So this is great. If we look at this, the main point of this post here is this little icon right up here. We're looking at our calendar and Outlook, okay? And where we normally see our Skype for Business meeting, next to that, we now see a Join Teams meeting. Well, this is only because this has already created a Teams meeting down here. But if this hadn't been turned into a Teams meeting yet, it would be Teams meeting, not Join. And when you click Join on a Teams meeting, the experience is pretty cool. It just takes you right into so user experience when attendees join will be a browser prompt. You get your prompt in the browser. Do you mean to switch apps? And then a quick join. As you can see, we are in the Teams app here. All of our Teams menu items over here. And there is now a meeting in its place with Matt having joined. So great breakdown. This is it seems like a small addition, but it's kind of a big deal. And I appreciate Matt taking the time to break it down for us in blog format. A couple notes he makes. If you want to create a meeting for a specific channel, you will need to schedule the meeting from inside Microsoft Teams. That capability is not in Outlook yet. Two, at the time of the writing, which is July, there is no PSTN join option for meeting attendees. We all are aware of that. Outlook functions and add-ins like time zones, etc., work with team meetings. So good call-outs there. This kind of had some mixed responses when this was announced the other day. A lot of people were really excited and happy about it. Some are like, yeah, it's cool, but I think it's just going to be confusing for end users. The simple answer is, yeah, there may be some confusion for the end users. There's going to be a period of time as we see the overlap and with Skype for Business and Teams and how the two kind of take some of the same places, but now they're starting to integrate more and more. There's confusion around that. And it is going to be a little bit of growing pains, and we're going to have to help our end users via proper end user training and things of that nature. But we can see the story is unfolding here. I'm hoping the story is unfolding for complete integration to where you can use one app or the other for Skype for Business functionality, but using the Teams app gives you all the other Teams stuff in addition to all Skype for Business functionality. That way, people that are just Skype for Business users can keep using the Skype app, and Teams users have all the Skype stuff they need right in the Teams app. I think that would be clean. I think it would be a beautiful implementation. And some of this stuff hints that they're slowly going there, and this is one of those little awkward steps toward it. So it's a very welcome thing to me. I'm glad to see it. But yes, I agree. There will be growing pains. There will be learning involved when it comes to end users, and it's something we're just kind of have to figure out the best way to approach as we move through each organization introducing these new things to our users. So my take on that. Moving on. New stuff for Skype for Business Online, auto attendance, and call queues. So several new things are listed out in this post, but the top one, probably the most exciting one here, that users can now receive calls for auto attendant and call queues on their Mac client, on their iPhone, their iPad, and the Android Skype for Business clients. That's super exciting. They give you the version numbers for each of the clients there as well. They show you what it looks like to receive calls when you are part of a call queue for them. And it's just really exciting to know that you can be part of a call queue on your mobile app or the Mac and receive those calls. Super awesome. Admins can now use Office 365 groups, both public and private groups, for limiting the scope of the users that are reachable with the dial by name feature in your auto attendants. We have a good little look at what that looks like, how you limit that scope. Very welcome addition, more granular control over your organization and what is allowed to happen in certain groups versus others. Several other improvements here that I don't want to go into each one. A couple of them improved accuracy of recognition for similar sounding names with speech recognition in the dial by name feature for auto attendant. Improvements with the enhanced English text to speech voice in July 2017. That's good. Protecting user anonymity, admins can use PowerShell to enable users to make outbound calls on behalf of an auto attendant or call queue using this calling line identity policy, also called a calling line ID. Here we see all the parameters involved with this. That is super cool. So you make a call out from an auto attendant or a call queue, and it shows up as that main number rather than your own. Very welcome addition, a very welcome feature. Glad to see the product group has been busy on enhancing and making call queues and auto attendants more full featured and closer to their cousins on the on-prem side. Very good stuff there. Read through this for more detail. There are a few other good nuggets of features that were added to read through. All right, Pexip. If you're not familiar with Pexip, then you just haven't been paying attention in the Skype for Business social media stage. They have been a very active social media player on the Skype for B hashtag. They are very present with booth presence at pretty much every conference as well. You'll have a chance to see them at Ignite. You might have seen them at Inspire or previously. They do video interop, and that is their Pexip. The big news from August 1st, their Pexip Infinity Fusion solution has now been given the certification as an interoperability solution for Microsoft Skype for Business Server. That's big news. Very big congrats to Pexip and the entire team there. I know a lot of work goes into that, a lot of ticking boxes and working closely with Microsoft to achieve that certification. So congrats on that. This is their press release. I'm going to include the link and let you read through it on your own. There, they get to boast of their certification with the new Skype for Business Certified 4 logo, and you can read through to read a little bit more about Pexip, about this solution, and about their journey there. Get some customer testimonials as well. So at any rate, if you are shopping for a good video interop solution for your on-prem, definitely take a look at Pexip's solution and throw them into the mix and evaluate them while you're evaluating all your other options. And now you can know that this is a certified for Skype for Business solution. So congrats again, Pexip. Very cool. Last but not least, Jeff Schertz, another fellow MVP in the Office servers and services realm. He, of course, works for Polycom, and anytime there is a new Polycom firmware or big release there, Jeff has a great blog post that details everything you could need to know about it in very detailed and clean format. So we have the UCS V5.6 firmware release for the VVX phones. There is a lot of cool new stuff in here. I'm going to skip over the how to upgrade, how to do this, all that stuff, and just go down to some of the what's new stuff. Not all of it. You can read this to get the details on all the rest. But updated user interface. You see it right there. Great screenshots. This really follows, if you're familiar with the Skype room systems and some of the other third-party vendor hardware that has been recently released with Microsoft's assistance and blessing, you will notice a very similar trend in the theming of these devices, getting a very clean interface that looks and feels a lot like the Skype for Business clients. We see that right here with this new firmware. One of the cool things about this new firmware release, unlike the previous releases, this updated interface is now also applicable to the VVX 400 models. Very, very cool. Some cool new things with dial plan normalization. There is good stuff there. I read over it. If you have concerns or thoughts about dial plan normalization when it comes to these phones, read about the news here and see what's going on. This may pertain to you. New config parameters. There's a bunch of them. Not going to go over all of them in any kind of length or detail. You can take a look at the parameter names right here and see where you might. Maybe you'll see something that pops out that you've been waiting for, looking for. Check that out a little bit deeper. Device lock. All right. When device locking is enabled, the phones are now simpler to unlock than in previous versions. The digits can immediately be typed into the phone and it will be read as the unlock code, not a phone number to dial as before. To place a call while locked, if allowed, the phone icon can be selected, the speakerphone button pressed, and the handset lifted. And they go over a few other things here. One with BTOE, device locking behavior has also been improved with BTOE mode with the latest BTOE 3.6 software release. So you need to update the software release as well for BTOE. The device will now only lock and unlock when the paired workstation is locked or unlocked, and not if the pairing status changes between active and inactive. Very interesting change. So read up on that and make sure you're comfortable with that before upgrading firmware. As you go down a little bit further, we've got one-touch meeting join. The thing I like about this here, previously, you have one-touch join. If the meeting was created within your own organization, it shows up on your calendar on the VVX, and then click join and you're in the meeting. But if the meeting was generated from another organization, you are invited and it shows up on your calendar, not quite as one touch, right? That has been changed. That's smoothed over with this, at least with how I was reading it, unless I was off on some other planet reading it differently. Glad to see that a meeting coming in from here we go. The example shown below is a Skype for Business meeting sent from an on-prem user and organization A to a Skype for Business online user and organization B. The join button also still appears in the meeting reminder alert. So we have that one-touch join in that scenario, which is super helpful and a very welcome change. Some call delegation changes, busy options, support for the Siren 7 codec, which might be a big deal to many. So that's cool to see. And then you're setting logging levels, and that's about it. And you're like, that's all? I know, that's a lot. They accomplished a lot with this firmware release. So good job to Polycom. Thanks for writing this up, Jeff. As always, great job. Might want to look into updating your test phones and then maybe pushing the releases out to the rest of your VVX organization. All right, back over to Infinity Screen and me. That's it. That's all I got for today. I will try, as always, to be back next week. No promises, obviously. But we had a lot of great news to cover this time around. Hopefully we'll have a lot of new stuff coming up as well in the next week. We're all still waiting for that Teams announcement about external access, guest access, federation, whatever you want to call it. That's still not out. End of June, end of July. We're now in August. We're excited to see it, Microsoft Teams team. So whenever you guys are ready to announce that, that'd be great. We're still waiting for that. Hopefully we'll be announcing that sometime soon here and talking about it on the show. That's all I've got for today. Thank you guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the show and you haven't already done so, please retweet, share it out, follow me on YouTube, all those things or some crazy combination of them. And we'll see you back here for the next episode. Thanks again and adios.